So the other question on the video that I posted was from Mike. And Mike and I spoke a few times a couple years ago before things kind of settled down on my end. And Mike wrote and asked if uh, my non-dual insights, I think, was what he mentioned in the comment, if those have informed or affected my everyday life. So, um, the the short and succinct answer is yes, they have um, been affected. I think the more kind of nuanced part of the answer has to deal with at what levels we're talking about effects happening. Um, so I think one of the most prevalent effects is that um, the distinction between the insights that happened and or the understanding that is currently being lived out, the separation between daily life and that understanding, the kind of distinction that may have been there before, is no longer there. For the past couple of years, aside from touching base with my teacher and a meditation practice that was a part of all of this prior to any inclination towards non-duality or this kind of this kind of process at all, because this kind of process was not anything that I was interested in, even in the least, uh, when it happened. Um, I think that aside from those couple of small things, I haven't really thought about this process conceptually or consciously for almost that entire amount of time. Um, that doesn't mean that the process wasn't carrying itself out somehow. In fact, I'm quite certain that it was, but it was not it was not something that was being pursued anymore. Um, things things kind of settled um, into a steady state of really quite ordinary life. Um, Now, I say ordinary life. Of course, a part of that ordinary life was many, many surgeries over a couple of years. I think I had 11 or 12 uh, surgeries over the past couple of years, skin surgeries, to deal with illness. And, in addition to all the rest of the sort of vicissitudes of life. Um, but things things sort of have been quiet here for quite a while. Um, Prior to that quieting down, um, there were there were a lot of ups and downs in the unfolding of what was happening, um, at quite a few different levels. And so I think to address just a few things, like specifically that uh, changed or unfolded, and some of which are, continue to unfold in fits and spurts, because as my teacher would say, conditioning is endless. Right. Um, the open-ended nature of integration. Um, there's always more to discover in my experience. So, uh, but things that have occurred specifically are, um, I don't know. I don't know that I am a huge fan of the term shadow work, but a lot of people will call some of what I've done shadow work. Um, meeting parts of uh, my inner landscape that have been uh, abandoned or resisted or repressed or um, sort of unconsciously projected. A lot of that has happened. Um, the the trauma work that I have been involved in, um, from past experience, that started about 7 years ago. Um, that has also, continued. Um, I think that how I relate with other people in my life has shifted pretty dramatically, um, because I don't really perceive any fundamental separation between uh, anybody I meet and and myself. Um, that informs the way that I interact with people uh, quite a lot. Again, I don't. It's not something that I think of consciously, but um, I think there's a pretty substantial level of um, what you could call attunement to other people and to their experience. Um, I think that the love and care that I feel uh, has a much um, deeper kind of quality to it than prior to any of this. Um, I certainly went through stages of this where there was a feeling of distance, um, at a couple of points in the process. It almost felt like, um, I don't know, it was almost like everything was much more separate than before. Uh, but all of that has kind of like coalesced again, and is much more much more interconnected than it was before. And so that I think that leads to um, something I referenced in another video I recently made, which is that compassion, uh, in the way that I talk about talk about this, talk about spirit or spirituality, and sometimes we'll say non-duality. Um, Compassion is fundamental to existence. It's fundamental to our our experience of being, because we are held in being, we are held in presence, we are held as presence and by presence and in presence. Um, so those places where things felt further away were kind of tricky, but I think because things unfolded the way that they have, um, throughout this process, I've come back to a place of, well, I shouldn't say come back to, but sort of relationships have resumed what appears to be their normal mode of operation. Um, but I simply feel a level of closeness with everyone and with everything that I encounter, um, that was not there prior to the shift. Um, Talking about it now, in all honesty, is a little bit difficult because, um, those those experiences are memories that are, they're very, very hazy. I think that's another, uh, if I concentrate enough, I can give an accurate recounting of some of these formative events, um, formative, like, twists and turns in the process. I can give you a, a map of it. Um, but as far as things go now, um, time and memory and anything outside of this, outside of here and this, um, it gets a little bit hard to keep track of. So that's sort of been a little bit of a challenge, I guess you'd say. But this integration happens at the rate that it needs to happen for everyone. In my case, I feel like it um, seems to happen somewhat quickly, and I tend to be quite skeptical. So I second guessed what was happening a lot of the time. Um, it may have been somewhat expedited because of the illness that I was facing and moving through. It's impossible to know. Um, but and it certainly has led me outward to a place of to a place of service and being present for those who are around me. So um, this type of speaking about it is something that seems to be coming around again in terms of being asked to mentor some folks and receiving the occasional question here. So um, I still don't really feel like I have a whole lot to say about it anymore. Uh, but if somebody asks, I'll do the best I can. So here's the best I can. All right. See you all next time.